Hi there, Robin here. Let's talk about this weird and wonderful palette from either Meeden or Superior. And stay tuned to the end to hear my final thoughts to make it easier to decide to buy or not to buy this kind of palette for yourself or as a gift. I'm not sure, but I think they're the same. The setup is the same exactly, except for the labels and the whiteness of the folder. The setup is basically this. The palette is white plastic with 7 black plastic fold-out paint trays. The trays are very thin and flexible and easy to move about. The paint is thin and flexible and moves with the tray and doesn't pop out. There is also a mixing tray on the bottom layer. The paint trays fold out around a metal pin. The first layer is 3 pans of color, and with each successive layer, they add another pan, so that layer 7 has 7 pans of color. I am not an artist who's on a color restriction diet. I love all the colors. I got as many colors as were available, and that's the 42 set. Remember, I'm not on a color diet. They come in a variety of numbers of colors, but I only strive for the gold. I want the max colors available, and that was the 42 set. I can mix my own colors, but I love it when the color is all laid out and like a buffet of color for my eyes to feast upon. I find it very inspiring. There is no cover or locking mechanism to keep it closed, unless you keep the plastic packaging for it. I get really excited about a new art supplies, so that means I get all ripper and tear to get to it. So the packaging was the one to suffer, and it didn't survive. So I either have to make a new one or I have to find a new one. It was my bad. Included in this set is a water brush. It's a really cheap one, but it's a cheap set, so it's okay. You can certainly use other brushes with better results. Remember, you didn't buy this set because of the brush, okay? But to be honest, personally, I didn't buy it for the paint either. I bought it for the unique palette. And you can either spend a lot of money on just palettes with no paint, so having paint included in the set is just a bonus. The top of the palette has a sponge, and it's meant to help clean your water brush. So this is where I'm going to tell you to start modifying and removing things. This sponge, remove that. You can use that area, that little wee area, for mixing. And use a paper towel to clean off your other good water brushes for the better results. Another thing I recommend is removing these swatches off the end of the trays, unless you want them as decoration, because they are not at all representative of the colors that are there. I will show you what I used as a swatch card stack, and as it turned out, others thought of it as well, because it makes sense and it's easy to do. These swatches are matching the levels of the paint, so you end up having 7 small swatches that match each level of the set, and you can either tie, staple, or whatever them together, cover them with packaging tape, and store them under the levels, all the levels, for easy access. I bought this set because I love the idea for this palette. It's portable, foldable, and to be honest, innovative. You should think about finding something like a rubber band to keep it closed, and be sure it's dry when you put it away. However, I have a couple of Wtfs. The Meeden set not only didn't give me the colors that were in the palette swatches, but they repeated colors or removed colors completely. For example, my first set, or my first layer, was supposed to have a white with 2 different colors of yellow. Well, there was no white. There were 2 colors of the same yellow and a weird yellow to go with it. None of it matched the swatch. And a couple of blacks were put in there instead of more color. So yeah, the quality control isn't perfect. And as you might know, blacks and whites are not necessary in watercolor, so they could have put more color options in there instead. Also, the setup of color arrangement is kind of wacky. There was a purple put in the brown section, and a red and a brown and a purple in another weird area, and a few other weird moves. And it was in both sets, but the Meeden set was the worst of these 2. Superior paints gave exactly what they said they would, except for the swatches. It had no repeats and so on, but the swatches were still way off. With both companies, the paint is brilliant and colorful, intense and easy to re-wet and use, and dries quickly on the paper. It lifts amazingly well off the watercolor papers that I used. I used quite a few. You can move the paint around until the paper fails, and in some cases almost back to white again. Therefore, the paint sits on top and is not absorbed into the paper. So I guess there's no dyes, it's pigments. And this is good or bad depending on your point of view. Overall, it seems like it's a good bang for your buck. Okay, here's a big concern for me. And maybe you should think about this as well. I'm going to have my friend here explain to you about that. So take it away, Sugar.
This company doesn't really give you any information about the pigments or contents, or light fastness for that matter. It is not extra work to do this. I am not asking for the recipe. I am asking for the contents or the ingredients. Most reputable paint makers do this as an opportunity to show their clients they are accountable and very proud of their product. So do I have concerns for the toxicity? Yes. And I am also one of those people who, if I can't have something, I want it more. And in this case, it is information. It bothers me quite a bit that this information is not available. For some reason, I cannot let go of not getting the colors right on the palette. It is a cheap set after all. And I guess mistakes are made, but toxicity is of major importance. Not coronavirus. Oh, and please subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when she makes new videos. They are rather enjoyable.
Here are some design flaws in the palette, but I will try to give you a few pointers to help you out. I don't like to complain unless I have some solutions or band-aids, you know? To a suggestion to the manufacturer, if they took out the swatch indicators and used that space for getting the pans away from the center pin so that the access to the colors that are closer to the pin is easier, and if they gave you an external swatch pamphlet to refer to or to give you a blank one for you to fill in, that would be a big bonus. So here's what I'm going to do with this palette to make it a bit better for me. I'm going to cut off the top right corner of the tray levels to help them splay out further and to give access to those little top pans that are not easy to get to. I will remove all the paint and the swatch stickers. I'll fill the pans with paint that comes from a more responsible paint manufacturer. I'll be using Core Watercolors by Golden Paints. I'm not sponsored of them, by the way. I just really like their paint. And then I will create a separate bag or box for toting this set about. Now here's a hint to help you dry the palette easier. The pans are really shallow and can hold quite a bit of paint. But if the palettes are overfull with paint, and if the paint is not dry, it will smear paint to the bottom of the tray above it. And that makes quite a mess. So what I do is this. I open it out completely and eschew the layers so they're not directly on top of each other, and then I really let it dry before I put it away. Overall, I really, really like this palette, but they could have gone just one step further by spacing better. I have a real thing about toxic paints.
This paint I think is fine for using as sketches, or in your art journal. Just don't lick your fingers to turn the page. Okay, I am being overcautious. But if they don't tell you what is in it, how are you supposed to react to it? Lead and toxic chemicals are no laughing matter. As long as you don't let it stay on your skin for very long. Or do what a lot of other painters do and lick your brushes to a point. Or accidentally put their brushes in their coffee. This is what they meant by don't eat your paint. This is why she has a to-go cup in her studio. It should be fine.
If you like this very honest opinion, and also some of the cool hacks or adjustments to help this palette come along better, leave a comment below and let me know how you feel about it. And thank you for watching, and may you have a day filled with art. Bye!